Happy Friday, Alpha Females. I'm your host, Katie Freeman. Welcome back to the podcast. And obviously, we have a new video element to this week's podcast, so yay for that. But I wanted to introduce this week's episode. I've had the chance to interview a couple sisters in the past, but this week is especially special because I get to interview Maria Maldonado Smith, and I want to tell you a little bit about her before you listen to our conversation about how to best create the vision for your college experience and your sorority experience. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction for her, and then I'll play the interview for you, and I hope you enjoy our conversation. I know I did. All right. So Maria Maldonado Smith is the Chief Empowerment Officer of MMS Consulting and is the creator of the Executive Vision Imagery program. After 18 years of award-winning success in the corporate space, working as a sales leader for Fortune 500 companies across 3 industries, Maria brings her unparalleled combination of experience to her proprietary process and interactive trainings, helping companies understand the science and benefits of goal setting for their employees. She equips leaders, employees, and organizations to clearly define goals and create a roadmap to achieving them, which allows for better alignment with corporate culture, leading to increased productivity and profitability. Maria has served numerous national and international clients, including the U.S. House of Representatives, Disney, and Paramount Studios. Maria graduated from the University of Kentucky with a degree in political science and was also a sorority member while attending. She most recently has been helping new members and current active members create vision boards for their plans during their college journeys and what they hope to do while serving as a member of their sorority. She has spoken on several podcasts and even hosts her own podcast, Creating the Vision. Welcome, Maria Maldonado Smith. Hi, Maria. Thank you so much for joining the Alpha Female podcast today. I'm so excited to get to chat with you about how to craft your vision for your sorority experience.
Thank you so much for having me, Katie. I really appreciate it. I'm excited for today's conversation.
Me too. Yeah. So tell us about yourself and, tell us more about how to craft our vision for our college and sorority experience.
Oh, wow. Yes. Okay. So, I wish that I would have had the resource that I provide when I was going through college. I always say that, sometimes we design and develop the things we wish we would have had, but I am a proud University of Kentucky graduate. Go Cats. And I was a big time member, ADPI initiated in the year 2000. So goodness gracious, 24 years ago, graduated in 2004 from UK and just have still stayed, relatively involved from time to time. We've moved around. We've had the fortunate opportunity through some corporate relocations to live in Atlanta, live in Nashville, Tennessee, and now we reside in beautiful South Florida, although it's really hot right now. Catching a few days here and there where the humidity is not at its peak level, but we enjoyed being able to move around, meet new people. And I would say that my program, which is called Executive Vision Imagery, I spent almost 18 years in the corporate sector. I'm working for 4 major corporations across 3 different industries and all Fortune 500 companies where I was in, kind of started in entry-level positions when I was working in pharmaceutical sales for 2 different companies and then was able to transition into management roles when I went into a different industry and sector. So I spent about 11 to 12 years in sales leadership, leading and developing teams, coaching them to sales success, having several of them be promoted, win President's Club awards, really cool, exciting things that as a leader, that's what you want for your people. So that was really cool to be able to experience that alongside them and help bring them up. And one of the things that really baffled me as a leader, which is why my program, Executive Vision Imagery, was, I think really that was the impetus for it, was meeting so many women who were uber confident in certain aspects of their life, but then we would get in front of a particular customer or client and all of their confidence would fade away. It's as if they would lose the ability to speak properly or make coherent sentences when 10 minutes prior we were in the car and they were crushing the conversation they were about to have. So I wanted to ensure that we were developing and leading our people, men and women, to success professionally, but also personally. And one thing I found throughout my own corporate journey was I'm very ambitious. I'm a very competitive person. I know these things about myself. And so I have a strong drive and work ethic that unfortunately isn't necessarily matched at times by others, meaning not everyone wants to work as much as I did. Not everyone wants to devote and sacrifice the type or the kind of ways in which I did. And some were healthy, some were not healthy. And I think that throughout that journey and when I work with corporations, when I speak now, I am very cognizant of sharing that story with people so that they understand there's a balance to life. And that's one thing I think some of the younger generation is getting correct. They're getting right, that there's a different way to live. And so that really shaped and molded a lot of my program, and my process was just my own personal experiences. But I saw that I wasn't dissimilar from a lot of my colleagues. A lot of us were burnt out. We were overwhelmed. We're stressed. We're doing a lot with limited resources. We're being asked to step up, being asked to do a lot of things. And we have families. We're moms. We're dads. We're wives. We're husbands. We're spouses. So like there's just so many different. There's life aspect to this. So the program really seeks to create personal alignment with professional alignment. And when we have those two things and we can show up authentically in both places and as the same person in both places of our lives, we are much better for that. And I think in the collegiate space, what that says is I show up for my sorority just like I show up for my classwork. I show up in my, internship or in my role as a leader in the sorority, just how I do. I take that just as seriously as I do my schoolwork and my commitment and dedication to the work that I'm doing at the university. So I think that's how it translates. And it also gives us an opportunity to start thinking about what it is we're forming. What vision are we creating for our life? I always say that the visionary of my own life. We should be, I guess, in different terms. I worked for an automotive manufacturing company on the financial services side for the majority of my career. So I use a lot of car analogies just because they fit and everyone can understand cars. But I say often that I don't want to be the passenger in my own vehicle. I want to be the driver of my life. I want to take it's kind of the Jesus take the wheel, right? I'm fine if he wants to take it, but I'll still be sitting in the driver's seat. And I want to make sure that whatever it is I'm working on, when we sit in the passenger seat, it's easy, it's comfortable. We don't have to do anything, right? We don't have to think, we don't have to navigate. We just get to enjoy the scenery. We get to look out the window. The problem is that so much is passing us by when we're doing that. So what I want is to take the reins, take the wheel, navigate on my own, use my own GPS system. I might make a couple wrong turns, and that's fine. But I said this once to someone. I said, we were talking about goal setting, because that's the crux and that's the basis of my program is setting goals, but setting actionable and attainable goals in small, manageable daily tasks. And I said, would you get 600 miles into a 1,200 mile trip and you make a wrong turn, and so you turn around and go all the way back? No, of course not. You would regroup, you'd redirect. You'd let the GPS redirect you. It would reroute you. Probably you'd go 5-10 minutes out of your way, and then you'd be back on your way and you'd make your trip. You're going to make stops along that way. You're going to refill. You're going to do all the things that's going to get you to where you're going. I think the same goes for every life journey that we have. And I think when we put it in those terms, we start to then realize how we might have self-sabotaged or even limited our opportunities or limited ourselves in accomplishing our goals, because how many of us have started a project or started a workout routine or regimen or getting healthy, so a nutritional plan, and you've been great the first 4 days or first 14 days, and then you have a weekend where you go out of town with your sorority sisters and you have fun, and you come back and you decide, oh man, I kind of fell off the wagon there. I was supposed to be eating healthy. And so you just abandon the plan instead of saying, you know what, that was a weekend. That was a little bit of fun. That was a blip in the road, but that was one of those potholes, but that's okay. I'm going to get back on smooth road and keep driving. So many of us just decide to give up and give in.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And having, the self, accountability is hard when, it's a journey that you're going on by yourself.
And we know that we're 76% more likely to accomplish our goals when we have an accountability partner. So now there are a couple caveats to that. We have to write our goals down. We have to be actively working on them daily. We've got to be pursuing them, and we need to create an action plan around them. But when we do that, research shows that Dr. Gail Matthews did a study at a Dominican university and found out that, wow, when we do that, we're 76% more likely to accomplish our goals. Yet less than 3% of us take the time to write our goals down. So the crazy thing is that for the less than 3% of us that do, it's about the 2.8% of us, we have really strong results when we do. There's just so few of us. And I feel like that's what I'm on a mission to do and to change, is to get people to just sit down with their thoughts, sit down with their goals, take the time to write them out. Now, the missing link is, which I believe wholeheartedly, and that's why my program is called Executive Vision Imagery. It's not executive goal imagery, but it's executive vision imagery, because the missing link and the alignment between our brain and the visuals that we attach to our goals, when we create a tangible format for them, so in the form of a vision board, we are actually rewiring our brain, and we're giving our brain signals and cues to see those goals out in the universe, and also to remind us, to keep us reminded of the goals we're working to achieve. It's really cool. And there's so much neuroscience around it too.
Yeah, I am a visual person. I constantly need Post-it notes all around my house. I need visual reminders for whatever it is I need to get done. And so it totally makes sense that if you've got a long-term goal, you need that visual reminder, just as a touchstone to be like, this is what I'm working towards. This is the ultimate, this is the end result here. And this is why I'm doing X, Y, and Z. So yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, there's so much research and so much science that's being done around how we set goals, and really it's the difference between why, when we look at certain people and say, "Gosh, they're so successful," or "I see them accomplishing goals." What am I doing differently? What am I doing wrong? That's typically what people will say, and there are things that we do wrong. We do set ourselves up for failure more, I guess, adequately than we set ourselves up for success. So there's a lot of things that we don't do because we're not taking the time to prepare for it. And so the interesting thing is, when you think about your college life, or you think about your prepping for job interviews to get a new job, aren't you researching that company? Aren't you looking into them? Aren't you understanding the questions you might be asked in an interview? You're doing all of these things to better understand and put yourself, or your mindset, you're kind of helping yourself get into the mindset of, if I worked for this company, these are the things I could bring to the table. This is why I would be the best. The problem is, we don't often do that for our own life. We don't often say, okay, how am I running my life? Let me research my own company, my own, the company of us, our own brand, our own life. We're not taking the time to dive in to say, oh, okay, so I started that and then kind of forgot, or what am I all about? So I have 3 questions that I always tell anyone. If you've never made a vision board, if you've never written down a goal, if you've never spent time, there are 3 questions that are very basic and simple that you can, essentially, in essence, they're basic and simple, but actually they're sometimes pretty hard to answer if we don't do the work and take the time. But the first one is just, what do I want? Like, quite simply, Katie, that's the crazy thing, is we don't even ask ourselves, like, what do I want? And when I think about the difference between people who are successful, it's because they know exactly what they want. They have true clarity and focus around where they're headed. They know where they're headed. They might not know what tomorrow is going to bring, but they know that if they continue doing the things that they have put in place to do to get them there, that eventually they will. That's not to say that they're not going to have, like I said, the proverbial, the bumps in the road, the potholes, the roadblocks, bumps, all the things, speed bumps, everything, if we're sticking to that analogy. But, and so that's the first question, just what do I want? And from a basic level of, what do I want to eat for lunch today, to what do I want to do with my life? What do I want to do? What do I want? Yeah. So that's what I said. It's simple and basic, yet really complex. The second is, who do I want to become? And we get asked often when we're younger, right? What do you want to be when you grow up? And I think that's a fun exercise. It's great. At the end of the day, if we can say, oh, I want to be a dentist, or I want to be a doctor, or I want to be an astronaut, I think that's great. Wonderful. And I love the idea that, like, my kids, they're 7, 14, and 16. So their minds have changed a million times. When my daughter was younger, she, wanted to be an actress on Broadway, all the things. Now she, wants to be, she's headed to college in a couple years. And right now she's going to be a psychologist. She wants to be like a behavioral analyst for the FBI. Her mind has changed, and it probably will change before she even ends up deciding what her major is in 2 years. But where I'm more focused is who she wants to become, not what, because the what part I can handle. That can be decided. That's what college is for. And honestly, that's even what post-collegiate life is for, still figuring out what you want to become. But who do you want to become? What kind of person do you want to become? Because when we don't take time to figure that out, we can become people that we don't like, people that we realize we are undercutting ourselves. We're not living up to our fullest potential. We aren't believing in ourselves as much. We don't have a lot of confidence, or we lack self-esteem, motivation, etc. So that's the second question. The third question is, what do you want to create or build? Because we all have some idea. And when I say create and build, I want to clarify this. I'm not saying like physically build something. If you physically want to build something, go for it. But I'm not saying we even have to innovate to the point of creating new patents or designing new products or anything. But what do you want to create for your life? What are you cultivating for your life? Maybe that is a minimalistic approach to living, where you can live off the grid. You can work remotely. You can be a hybrid employee. But if that's what you want to create for your life, then wonderful, because you know what you want to create, and work towards creating that. Or maybe you want a big, grand life, in the McMansion with the, 2.5 kids and the 3 cars and all of the things. Like, okay, great, wonderful. Own it and go do it. But outline that, understand what it is that you want to create. Because what I'm finding is that in my early 40s, I've started to reflect on why we have these sudden changes of heart when we get to about the age of 38, 39, 40. I had my big aha boom moment to leave corporate, to kind of abandon that path that I thought I was going to be on for my entire life and career. And it hit me so hard, so fast, but I still needed to put a plan in place. So I was pushing, I think 38, about to be 39. And it was the fall of 2019. And I just was overcome with this kind of just feeling, a knowing that I do not want to stay in corporate any longer than I have to. I'm probably going to have to stay for at least a little bit longer just to kind of get a plan together of what I want to do next. But I know that this isn't for me anymore. It's not serving me. And that's That's fine because we evolve. Part of doing the exercises and the work that I challenge people to do is so that you can know these things. This isn't a one or done thing. This isn't something you do when you're 20 and you say, okay, the rest of my life is done. Nope, this is something you do 20 and you do it every single year until you continue to get where you're going because our minds change. Think about that. If we'd listened to our 6-year-old selves, we'd have a lot of astronauts in space.
A lot of ninjas, a lot of mermaids.
Yes, a lot of mermaids. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
No,
so we evolve.
Yeah. And that's interesting how that, touchstone of once a year redoing the vision board and realigning yourself with your new goal, maybe, that totally makes sense. And it's a great, touch point, check-in with yourself of, am I still on the right path for what I ultimately want?
Yes, because it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to say. I mean, at one point, I feel and I understand that there are certain majors that it's hard to go in undecided. But I think that if you are hesitant at all, do not be ashamed to go into college undecided, or go into your career life undecided and say, you know what, I'm going to try this out. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I can pivot. I can redirect. There's beauty in acknowledging that something's not working and then doing something about it. It's when you stay stuck in a career for 10, 15 years and you loathe it. And then you get to that point where you're at that age where you look back and say, what did I just wasted all of that time when I could have been on the path that was going to fulfill me and make me happier. I mean, I don't love everything about entrepreneurship, but I'm sure as heck a lot happier than I was when I was, in corporate working for someone else's goals. Those goals started to not become a part of who I was anymore. And that's okay when you own that. And I don't think that everyone's cut out for entrepreneurship either. I think that there's beauty in saying, I'm someone who wants the steadiness. I love being, I'm a great team member or I'm a great team leader within the infrastructure that a corporation provides me. Nothing wrong with that. Like, kudos to you because you know exactly what it is that you are meant to do and that you're aligned with that. And that's really the process. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just understanding yourself. We spend 100% of our time with ourselves. So we should know us as intimately as anyone or anything else in this world.
Yeah, exactly. And you talk about that pivot of like realizing, maybe you work better in a different kind of structure. And for me, I started out being kind of entrepreneurial and then realized I don't really like this. I think I do better with a more structured environment rather than me having to figure out every single thing along the way. I think I do better in more structured environments where I fit into, the mold or the structure of the corporate environment versus me dictating what I'm doing on, with regards to like a business that I'm running, where for me it was acting. But yeah, totally makes sense to, kind of figure out which system you fit best in. And it's okay to pivot if you decide, from one year to the next, you want to try something different.
Yes. And kudos to you. That's amazing. Like to have that type of vulnerability and to acknowledge like this isn't working out. This is something I need to make a change on. Like I say, that's like I was like kudos to you because it's hard for us to sometimes come and to admit those things. I think the thing that I learned in coming out of my 30s especially was an into my 40s and just kind of owning like who I am, is I worried so much about what other people might think about my potential shift in job, or if I left a company, or if I almost got fired from my first leadership role. And, I carried the weight of that pressure of, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing, when no one even knew what was going on. I just internalized all of these. I internalized all of these different aspects of my life, thinking that people even cared. And then you realize everyone else is just trying to focus on their own life. They're trying to get up every day, raise their kids, go to work, build a life. No one cares. And then once you realize that, yeah, it's so freeing. And then you just move through life so much seamlessly and easy. And it makes making those kinds of decisions much more simplistic than we make them.
Oh, so true. So true. Yeah. Everybody's just trying to get through their own lives in one piece. And they might have a passing thought on what you're doing with your life, but then it's right back to them. That's probably the extent of what they're actually thinking about. Wow, how are they living their life? So that's kind of comforting. It's everybody's just trying to figure it out themselves. They don't really care about what I'm doing.
That's why I tell my kids that all the time. Just focus on you, because trust me, you may feel uncomfortable in something, but no one is paying attention. I promise. You're the one who's freaking out the most. You're the one who's stressing about this the most. No one else. They're just trying to make sure that no one else looks at them. So you're all doing the same thing, thinking at each other, and then I think as you get older and you get into life, you realize even more so, man, which is why the work that I do is so important, because it really does center us back to, hey, this is about me, and I'm going to be about me, because I know that if I am happy, if I'm fulfilled, if I'm doing what I am, what lights me up, my passion, my drive, my purpose, well, then I'm better for other people. Not that I'm worried about other people, but I'm actually better for them, because then I can go out and help them, or I can serve them in a capacity that helps them maybe get to where they're going, because I know who I am and I'm showing up as the authentic version of myself. And that is very contagious as well, especially when you're in a corporate environment.
Yeah, I can definitely see, using the touchstone of the life plan, the vision board, being useful for college students, because especially now that they've got social media integrated into every aspect of their life, it's so easy to get into that comparison trap and see what, somebody else is doing compared to how you're living your life. And so that would be such a great resource for somebody to be like, okay, I can see what everybody else is doing, but here's my vision board and here's what I need to be focusing on. And it would be a great redirect, because it's so easy to fall into that comparison trap, right?
Yes, it is. It is. And I mean, I think we'd all be lying if we said we didn't fall into that at one time or another. I think that now as I get older, I put in steps to mitigate that. And I am very much a fan of following people who fill my cup, who lead me. I mean, that's my choice. I don't have to stay following someone that is going to make me feel bad about who I am, or myself, or my self-worth. So I think there's beauty in that, in saying, actually, I own this Instagram account, so I can follow whoever the heck it is I want to. And then on the visual side, the visual piece, you bring up a really great point, because one thing I share with all of my participants in my corporate workshops, and even, I work with moms, I work with women's empowerment groups, I will work with anyone, because my program is for everyone. And so I tell them, and this is a great thing to think about, especially as a college student, especially as young in your career, or as you start to think about the future. If you are thinking about a family, about kids, unfortunately, social media is not going away. And I mean, listen, I say unfortunately, I enjoy it. I use it for my business. I use it to communicate and connect with people, to share pictures. So I do love it, but we have to set boundaries and limits. And I have a whole segment on setting boundaries, primarily geared towards your goals, and why it's so important to set boundaries around your goals, and why you need to decide what it is you need to do. Maybe if you need to delegate things, but maybe you need to delete things delete apps, delete people out of your life, mitigate those distractions, because those are things that are going to hold you back. We already see 3.2 billion images that are uploaded a day online. Every day, 3.2 billion images are uploaded online. Over 720,000 hours of video content are uploaded. And the average social media user with just one account sees a minimum of 10 to 100 images a day. So think about that. You are a young college student, or you're a sorority leader, and you're trying to lead a group of girls. And the first thing most of us do when we get up, well, we grab our phone, probably because it has our alarm. It serves as our alarm clock as well. And so we turn our alarm clock / phone off, and then we tune into social media or email or any of the things that distracts us and that pulls our time, tension, and focus and energy. When we do that, yes, yeah. Oh, I'm guilty of it as well, and I know
every day.
Yeah, and I know the science and I know the facts of it, and I'm still guilty of it. I work really hard to mitigate that, but it's we're human. We're human.
Yeah.
So, and so think about that with those images, and really when we see those images, it's actually activating a part of our brain. So visualization is extremely powerful. As humans, we prefer visuals. And so that's why it's so addicting. That's why social media is so addictive, because it's these images and they're right at our fingertips, or they're memes and they're funny, and it's increasing our levels of dopamine in our brain. And so it's giving us a response. It's a chemical response in our brain. Well, I'm fine with that, except I want those images to be geared towards my goals. I want the chemical response of my brain to be focused on my vision board of my 8 goals that I'm working on, or my 3 or 4 goals that I'm working on achieving. I want to spend the first 3 to 5 minutes of my day looking at those images, because those are the images that are going to serve me better than looking at someone else's life. And I think that's why when we do that, we increase that we get that response from the dopamine. We get that quick hit, but then we're immediately brought down and reminded, but that's not my life. However, if I see images that I curated, images that maybe even I took those pictures and then printed them out to put them on my board, but I am more in control of, I'm staring at the picture of the mountain, because that mountain represents, me either physically hiking that mountain, or the proverbial mountain of life, whatever that image means to you, it's speaking to you in that way. And when you start to look at it that way, you reframe it. And now your mind starts to visualize and see that out in the world. It's incredibly powerful. And that's what I'm hoping to impart upon all the participants in my workshops. I mean, I am a Greek university speaker, so I do speak on campuses across the country. And I would love to, if you are a collegian or if you are an alum that's working in an advisor, position, I would love to chat with your group. I talk about, cultivating and creating a vision for your sorority. I take basically all the things that I apply within the corporate setting and just mirror that within the collegiate setting. Of course, tweaking it a little bit to match the audience, of course, and to match some of the objectives. But I have enjoyed being a part of some officer transition conversations and workshops that helps give, the newer leaders a better feel for the vision that they're casting for their year as serving the sorority. And there's nothing wrong with, and I mean, this is what we should be doing. This is the work we should be leaning into. Our personal goals, and then our goals as leaders in the sorority, and then that becomes our professional goals when we get out into our working life, our career life. So yeah, if anyone's interested, you can always find me on Instagram, connect with me on LinkedIn. My website is MMS Consulting Firm. .com. And I also have a workbook called Creating a Vision Board. It's on Amazon, and it walks you through the 5-step process of my program. And like I said, ask yourself those 3 questions. What do I want? Who do I want to become? And what am I looking to create or build in my life?
Absolutely. And I know as, a sorority woman, in my college years, I would have definitely benefited from taking this kind of course when I took on leadership roles, because I kind of was going into it a little bit blind. Obviously officer transitions happen, but you don't really know what you're getting into for the most part when you first start the transition process. So it would have been a nice resource if, your services were around when I was in college, and I would have been able to take your course. So I highly recommend anybody listening to reach out and definitely connect with you. So thank you so much for taking me through that. I would love to ask you some of the same questions that I've been asking my guests thus far. So what was your sorority involvement during your college years?
Yeah, so I was I guess what you would call VP or executive VP. EVP is what the role was, for about a year and a half in the sorority. So spanning between like my sophomore and junior years of college. And then during recruitment, I actually helped downstairs in the dreaded basement, right? It was the basement of our sorority house. But I helped actually tabulate all of the metric system, the scoring system for young women going through recruitment at the time. And I just found it to be easy but yet fun. Like I enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing that. And I had a couple of folks sorority sisters that we took on that role together, and it was pretty fun. So we had our own little recruitment week downstairs.
That's a really important role.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes recruitment tick, is making sure the mutual selection system is working and the women who indicate interest, are getting sent to those houses. So that's a really big role.
Yes.
But that's great that you enjoyed it and found it fun. So tell me what your sorority involvement has been so far as an alumna member.
Yeah, so when we still lived in Kentucky, which I'm actually from Lexington and then went to the University of Kentucky, but for a few years before we left, I was on our advisory board as an advisor, membership education, and worked with the membership education position in the sorority, and I really enjoyed that. So that was really fun. And then when life got kind of crazy and I was traveling all the time, and we moved to Atlanta and then moved to Nashville, wasn't able really to do much. We moved down to South Florida, and for about a year, I was involved with the chapter at FAU. Yeah. And I still, I love the women there and some of the advisors. They're just the sweetest. But as I got into the entrepreneurial space and started building and scaling my own company, it was unfortunately too hard for me to stay in that kind of a capacity and role to support those women. So yeah, maybe one day again.
It's great. You could give your time when you had the ability. And again, you can always go back and give time when you have more ability and time on your plate. So that's great. So tell me, what is your favorite memory from your collegiate years?
I would say Greek Sing. Greek Sing was my favorite. Oh yeah, that has to be one of my favorites. Our chapter was pretty strong at Greek Sing, and one year we did a Britney mashup, and it was pretty fun. So,
yeah. Oh my God! Of course, that would have won. Of course.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the highlights for sure.
And so, was your Greek Sing like mostly dancing, or was it actually singing? Because our school, we had like one portion that was singing, but most of it was dancing. Like that was kind of more the angle.
Yes. And I think that was ours too. I'm pretty confident that we all lip synced to Britney. None of us were willing to take that on, but dancing, yes, dancing, we brought it.
Oh, good. That's perfect. What has been your favorite alumna memory thus far?
Oh, I would say a tailgate that we randomly got together
Oh, I love that.
yeah, it was probably something that we coordinated, honestly,
Yeah.
because having moved away from home, I haven't been able to go to many, but I would say there's two that stick out. One was one that we did just a tailgate at Keeneland, which is a bunch of girls. I think we'd been out for less than 10 years, and we got together and did a tailgate. I would say the second was when our chapter advisor decided that she was going to not necessarily step down, but take a different role within the executive office or within like the higher up or hierarchy of Alpha Delta Pi. And so she was leaving the chapter. And so we came together to honor her and her commitment to us, because she was a phenomenal chapter advisor. And she's still a huge part of the 80 Pi community. So that was really fun.
Oh, that's great. I love that. Yeah. I love whenever there's a standout alumna who's just been around for years and years and is just like gonna be volunteering in some capacity the rest of her life because she just loves it. And I've got many sisters like that who have just been around since I was in college, and they're still so active in the sorority. And, they may not see the immediate, like, congratulations, appreciation out of it, but they are doing it solely because it brings them joy and it makes them, feel connected to their sororities. So what does your sorority mean to you? What are your experiences? What did your memories? What do those all mean to you?
The sisterhood is the thing that's, of course, sticks out the most, I would say. But then my sorority also meant a lot for me from a leadership perspective, too. I learned a lot. I was taught a lot that I was able to take with me. I think the cool thing about being in a sorority is it's not necessarily, that's the thing. I think people judge you're buying your friends all of the different things. But then as you get into your working world, you realize you join young professionals associations, you join networking groups, you join BNI groups. They all have some capacity and format of paying for those types of connections. This was so wonderful to be able to do in my college years. And I think for me, it meant really that lifetime of being able to, one, call these women my sisters. I mean, there are things that we experienced that we shared, and a lot of them were just the little moments sitting in the TV room watching TV shows together, or celebrating, big moments like engagements, or Monday night chapter meetings, all the way to, honestly, to 9/11 that happened when I was a sophomore in college. And I will never forget where I was on that day, because I was in my sorority house, and we walked into the TV room to 40 to 50 sisters just glued to the TV and wondering what in the world was going on. So I think about those moments, and like I said, some more pivotal than others, some more poignant than others, but all of them were still moments, and they were moments that shaped my college experience. And there's so much beauty in that I don't know that how you put a price tag on that. I don't know how you describe that to someone to help them understand until they're in it. So that's why I would just encourage women to go through the process so that they can understand what sorority membership truly is. So I'm not sure that I answered the question. I would just say that I think what it means to me is, was that sisterhood, was the leadership, was the opportunity to grow within an environment that I felt very safe in.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And, it's always the moments where you're just hanging out in somebody's room and just talking about anything and everything that, that just kind of cements the friendship. It's not the really big moments. Usually it's all of the, hangout sessions that you get to have with your sisters that really cements the friendship. So that totally makes sense. So you kind of already touched on this, but I would love to hear any elaboration But how has your sorority involvement changed your life? I mean, you talked a lot about how it was a great leadership development influence in your life. So, anything else to add to that?
Well, so now I would say that it's changing my life in the sense that I get to speak on campuses across the country about that involvement, and I get to influence and motivate and impact the lives of collegians like like myself. So at that time in their life, so that's definitely how it's changed my life in that way. I am actually going to be on the cover of our ADPI magazine, so our national magazine, which I'm super pumped about. Yeah. So the cover story for this summer, kind of ahead of talking about creating the vision and about goals. And I give some tips and share some resources and ways in which I help to do that on campuses and with chapters. And then I would say also how it's changed my life is just connecting me with women everywhere I've moved. The cool thing is that, it's like the ties that bind us. And whenever I've mentioned my involvement in ADPI, or I have had someone see that on my LinkedIn and they'll say, oh my gosh, so-and-so is an ADPI. Did you know that? Or did you know that this person was also in your sorority? And it's just really cool. Even if we didn't go to the same school, we didn't even initiate in the same decade, it doesn't matter. Like there's just that link, there's that common bond because it's rooted in such a foundation and a sisterhood of tradition and of that legacy. And so regardless of what sorority you are in, I think that's the flag that we get to carry. That's, that's our pride and our joy. And I'm very proud of the sisterhood that I'm a part of. And so that's really cool. And I think as an alum, that's been the neatest thing is just meeting other women through networking groups or even in the corporate setting. I've been doing a workshop and someone will say, I spied your LinkedIn and and we're sisters. So that's pretty cool. It's really neat. So that's how it changes that's how it can change kind of your perspective in your life post college.
Yeah, I've also noticed, in California, sorority life is not as big as it is in the South. And just even being another sorority woman, I've noticed has been another connection for me when I'm, joining a company or meeting other college or other colleagues at my work, and they were just in a sorority. I'm like, hey, we were both in the Greek system. That's enough for me to be like,
Yeah.
just FYI, like we understand. We have an understanding.
Yeah. It is. It's that common bond. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like we went through a similar experience. Like this is an extra connection we have to each other. So yeah, ADPI's.
Because you know what it's like.
Yeah. ADPI's listening. Make sure your mailing address is up to date with headquarters because you need to see Maria on your covers for the upcoming issue of the magazine. So make sure your mailing address is up to date. That's awesome. Well, congratulations again on the cover. And lastly, do you have any parting advice for current collegians or alumni?
In both situations, I share this is that it starts with us. It starts with you. You are the person who is going to change your life. You're going to be the one that makes that decision. It also starts with you from a chapter perspective. You can be the change that you want to see in the chapter, but you have to live that. You have to own that. Unfortunately, in our lives, no one's coming to save us for the most part. We got to do it ourselves. No one's going to force us to wake up every day and do the things that we need to do to be successful. The same goes in the sorority. Yes, you have help. Absolutely. Ask for that help. Use those anchors. Use your advisors. Take advantage of them and the resources that they can provide. But you got to do a lot of the work yourself. It's unfortunately goal setting goals, creating the vision for your life. It seems wonderful because we get to dream big and we get to think about all of the amazing things that we could do, but we actually have to do those things. And so that's the not easy part. That's the not fun part because it's going to suck sometimes. It's going to not be fun. It's going to feel like giving up. It's going to be the most frustrating, most daunting process. It's going to be overwhelming at times. And that's where you just got to take it all the way back down to the smallest form and smallest step that you can take to move forward. Because the motivation comes in the doing. Unfortunately, motivation is not something we can drink or something that we can just absorb. It happens by us actually getting up and making something happen. And then we become more and more motivated to continue that. And then we build momentum, and then that momentum keeps us going. So I would say it starts with you. And I think in your career, it's the same way. We have to take the bull by the horns, like proverbially, and just go after it. We are the main character of our own life. Stop being the passenger in your own car. Make those decisions, make those changes, and do them with intention. If you know you need to work another 6 to 8 months to transition into a different role or to leave your job to start something new, start it on the side to see how it goes first before ripping that Band-Aid off. Live in the uncomfortable for a while, because it will benefit you so much more than making some rash decisions or not fully having planned some of the goals that you're working to achieve. So really think about them, work on them actively daily, because less than 1% of us do. And and wake up every day and do that mirror work. Look at yourself in the mirror and be like, yeah, this is my life. I've got this. Like, it starts with me, and I'm going to own it.
Yeah. What's that saying? Luck is just the meeting of hard work and what was
I think opportunity.
Opportunity.
Right?
That's
is it hard? Is it? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So
yep.
That definitely aligns with that that vision and that goal. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today about creating a vision.
Thank you for having me. Anyone who wants to follow me, I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn the most. So at Maria Maldonado Smith, you can check out my website, mmsconsultingfirm.com, or you can email me. Send me an email, maria@mmsconsultingfirm.com. I'd love to chat.
Thank you so much, Maria. Appreciate the conversation we had today.
Thanks, Katie.
Thank you so much for tuning in for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed listening to my conversation with Maria. And if you want to get in touch with her, I've included her contact information and handles in the show notes. If you liked this episode, please rate this podcast 5 stars wherever you listen. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. And if you have any Greek-related questions, go ahead and send an email to alphafemalepod@gmail.com. I hope you have a great weekend ahead. Take care, Alpha Females.